Shortly into the session, we pick up pocket fours under the gun. I raise to 300. Almost on cue, Alex puts in a disrespectful 3-bet to 1,000. When you have an opponent like this on your direct left, it can make for a miserable session, particularly if you aren't dealt many strong hands to fight back with. I've gotten the better of Alex in other medium and large pots on stream in the past, but he's never had position on me like this. He's looking to take advantage of it and get revenge. We've got a hand with plenty of potential. I call for 700 more in order to set mine. We're heads up out of position. The flop comes 7-5 deuce with 2 hearts and a spade. It's not the best flop, but it isn't the worst either. I wouldn't expect it to connect well with the pre-flop aggressor's range. I check. Alex is going to stick with his story that he's harboring a monster. He continues with a down bet of 800. I don't know if 4s are the best hand at the moment. What I do know is that my opponent and I are both aware that I could easily have all the sets, plus there are a lot of cards that can help us improve as we have some decent backdoor potential. Not only can we hit a 4 to make a set, but any ace, 3, 6, or 8 gives us a straight draw, and a heart gives us a flush draw that may or may not be good. I take this weak $800 bet, and I raise to 2,000 to fold out hands containing 2 overs that'll have a lot of equity. If we get called and get a good turn card, we'll continue with the aggression. Alex feels good enough about his bottom pair and backdoor flush draw. He calls to see another card. The dealer puts out the 6 of diamonds, giving us the open-ender. It's another card that should be great for us, pretty bad for the pre-flop 3-better most of the time. We keep the pressure on with about a 2/3 sizing of 4,000. It'd be great to win this immediately, but if the opponent has an overpair and calls once more, we'll have to prepare ourselves to make a river shove whether or not we make a straight. Since Alex doesn't improve, he lets it go. We win a fairly large pot, but this is only round 1. An orbit later, we pick up our signature hand, the Jiggities. I raised it 300. Alex won't let me get away with anything today. He puts in another 3-bet to 1,000. It's early on and nothing has gotten to showdown yet, so there's no way for me to know how strong or weak Alex has been with his re-raises. I call for 700 more. We're heads up again. The flop comes ace, king, 8, all hearts. It's about the worst flop I could imagine. There are 2 overs and 3 to the flush out there for a suit that we don't have. Plus, I know this is a great flop for the 3-betters range. I check. Alex is going to bet 100% of the hands that he'll have, whether he actually connected or not. In this case, he has me crushed with top pair. I can't call a bet no matter what, and don't want to waste anyone's time. I fold before Alex even acts because this situation is so disadvantageous. Alex isn't totally shocked. We're pretty friendly with each other. He shows that he had the winner with an ace. He wins round 2. We've gotten a 7th player and the whole table agrees to play the Nick game. I'm not a fan of this game because over the last 12 months, I've lost nearly $250,000 while playing it. If it wasn't for this game, I'd probably be even winning lifetime at the lodge. Still, I agree to it to appease the viewers and the rest of the table. I get that it's fun for them. The way it works is a nit button is placed in front of each player. If anyone wins a pot, the nit button's removed and the last person with the button in front of them has to pay everyone else a $300 fee. In the first hand of the nit game, our newest player Justin picks up a premium with a short stack and raises to 400. It's a larger than normal size raise, especially from under the gun. We've got Big Slick ourselves, and with the nit game being on, and in an attempt to get it all in against Justin, I go with a big 3-bet sizing to 2,000. I don't expect anyone else to get involved, but Yushan just made a quick trip to his Auntie Anne's. He gets pretzels and doesn't want to relinquish them. It's probably tempting for him to maybe even 4-bet. If we happen to get it in against him, we'd be in bad shape with only 4 outs. Instead, Yushan cold calls the 3-bet. Justin takes one last gander at his cards. There's no way that he's ever laying ace-king down for 1,600 more. In fact, with only 86.25 remaining in his stack, he knows what he's got to do. He 4-bet jams. It's possible that he could be doing this with ace-queen or a hand we're flipping with. I want to isolate him, so I 5-bet jam to get Yushan out. Yushan has to fold. We force out the best hand to play a $20,000 all-in pot that'll likely be a chop. We at least get an extra $2,000 from a third opponent to possibly split. The flop comes ace-king-queen. Both flop 2 pair. There's no real sweat. For formality purposes, we see that we both turn the boat and hit 75% of our outs against pocket 8s. The river is the 10 of hearts. We both make a little extra money, but since it's a chop, neither of us are able to get rid of our nit buttons. Next, we've got pocket 9s first to act with a $200 straddle on. I raise to 600. Andrew has an over in the straddle. He calls with high hopes of hitting. The flop comes ace-queen-jack with 2 spades. He gets there, but he checks. There's a good hand to check back with, but I know that I have the range advantage, so I can't help myself. I go with a small bet of 400, turning it into a bluff. Even if Andrew has something like Jack-8 suited, he may want to fold. He's not letting go a top pair though. He calls. The turn is the deuce of hearts. Andrew checks. Figure our 9s are no good unless Andrew has a flush draw. Since we can have the nuts, all the sets, and 2-pair hands that Andrew won't necessarily have, it could be tough for him to call a second barrel out of position with a hand like the one he's got. I keep the pressure on and bet 1300. It's not very often that I attempt double barrel bluffs against Andrew. He can't fold though. He matches the bet, and I start to suspect that he could be pretty strong. The river is another queen. It's a bad card because Andrew could have something like Queen X of spades, Queen Jack, King Queen, or Queen 10. He checks. It's too risky to fire a big bet when I could be up against trips or better. Andrew may even have a tough time folding an ace, and we at least beat missed flush draws. I check back to give up. Andrew lets me know that he has an ace. All of a sudden, he's a few $1,000s richer. I'm down about $2,500, but it's still early on in the session. With another straddle on, Boots raises to 500 from the cutoff. I'm in the third blind with the speed limit. I call for 400 more. Alex is in the $200 straddle. He's got a hand I'd expect him to just call with to close the action the vast majority of the time. I'm not sure what he's using for a randomizer, but I think it's broken since he's not mixing in anything. He's 3-betting 100% of the time when it's at least somewhat reasonable, and about 50% of the time when it's not at all. In this case, he 3-bets at 2,300 with a reasonably reasonable hand. He clears out the equity that Boots has as the preflop aggressor folds. I should really be folding this hand, and surprisingly, even much better pocket pairs because the straddler isn't supposed to be 3-betting too wide of a range. By now, I realized Alex isn't playing by the book. I call, hoping to finally make a set after having multiple pocket pairs. The flop comes 9-6 deuce with 2 diamonds. No set for us. We're in bad shape. I check. Alex has to at least be a little concerned that we could have a set, yet he wants to keep control of the pot. Alex downbets at 2,000. He played his queen deuce suited hand similarly, in which he 3-bet, flop bottom pair, and downbet. Once again, we have plenty of cards that'll help us improve to either a straight draw or a set. This time, I call rather than check raise. The turn is the 9 of diamonds, completing the front door flush draw and pairing the board. I check immediately. Neither of us really love this card. Alex does pick up a flush draw though. He doesn't want this pot to get out of control in case he's drawing dead to an 8. He checks back. At this point, I rule out him having a full house, trips, and most overpairs. He'll often have just ace high, and he won't have a flush. The river is another deuce, double pairing the board. I'd like to get to showdown with what will often be the best hand. I check. Alex can rule out me having a strong hand after I only check called flop, checked turn, and checked river after a check through on the previous street. My hand looks like I've got exactly what I've got, or maybe worse. Alex winds up and announces a bet of 6,500. We see me wincing here because I don't think Alex will have an overpair or better that often like he's representing. I wouldn't expect him to have 3-bet pre-flop with the hand that he has, and I wouldn't expect him to go for value with 8s very frequently on the river, so it feels like a bluff. Once it checked through on the turn, I had it in my mind that I'll have him beat often enough to justify calling a river bet if it's a blank. I call and get my chips in there before Alex does. He shows that he wrecks my world. I have to give him credit for knowing where he was at and continuing to go for value. I could have and probably should have folded at multiple points throughout the hand, including to the pre-flop 3-bet, the flop bet, and the river bet. Against other players, I'd be more inclined to abort, but Alex's image and our history together gets him paid.